Rock and roll doggy.
Sort of a musical journey, really, you know. No, it's a musical journey.
Hey everybody, welcome to Rock and Roll Doggies. This is our podcast. It's two lifelong friends breaking down music that's been important in our lives. I'm Jason Acquisto, and this is my friend since we were teenagers. It's the man, the Smurf, Don Pardue.
Yes, sir.
So, listen, you're the king of the internet. You are Mr. Personality, and here we are. Okay, here we are with an album that, as we go through the album-by-album discography of U2, the library of their music, we've come upon Zooropa, which happens after Achtung Baby, which happened after Joshua Tree. And so we've been talking in the green room before the broadcast here. This is kind of a divisive album. I mean, you came after, what do you expect? You come after these two monolithic albums and you put out something that is a little bit different. This seems to be something that some people really like, but it's okay not to like it. It's definitely a departure. Smurf, what are your initial thoughts about Zooropa?
I think retrospectively, it is a really nice bridge between Pop and Achtung Baby because you have some elements of Achtung Baby that are incorporated into this album. And then I think what they do is they springboard from Zooropa into Pop. So it's a nice bridge between two different periods in the U2 legacy.
I think that's a good point. I think of it as more important than it is enjoyable.
That's a good point, too. It's a deeper album once you really kind of dig into it than I think maybe what I realized it to be, and perhaps what a lot of people realized it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do enjoy it. I don't want to say I don't, but I mean, it doesn't grab me by the soul like so much of their other music. So I enjoy it, not all of it. I don't believe it's their strongest album, but there are some really great moments on it. Definitely has some Achtung Baby in its DNA. I think that there are some things that you think, oh, that could have been on the Achtung Baby album. I think Numb could have been a B-side on.
Numb was left over from the Achtung Baby sessions.
That's what I thought, right?
Yeah.
So certainly, like the loops and some of the synth is a newish, kind of departure for them, but it's an offshoot of Achtung Baby, I think, musically and also some of the lyrical content, because some of the themes are very similar. I think the intent is similar, and they were on the same, in a lot of the same ground. But I do think, and this is not trying to get ahead of things here, but sometimes it seems like it lacks the depth and the poetry.
You think about this though. So think about your top 4 or 5 songs off this album. Okay, put those aside, and then throw in "Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me," "If God Will Send His Angels," "If You Wear That Velvet Dress," and "Wake Up Dead Man."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay? Because all of those songs were recorded during the Zooropa session. So really, if you were to take your top 4 or 5 songs off the album and then throw in these songs that I just mentioned, that's a really strong album.
Yeah.
So I think they were still operating at a pretty high level from a creative perspective.
It's funny how a song choice can mean so much, right? Because if you look at this as a companion to Pop, or even as a latter phase companion for Achtung Baby, then you group that in there with them, and it's a strong musical phase that they were in. But if you look at it separately, then here are the songs that ended up on this release as opposed to the other one, and it just kind of by chance, then those songs weren't maybe as strong, Yeah?
Yeah, and this album was recorded in a very hurried manner. It wasn't like Achtung Baby, where there was a lot of time to really sit down and contemplate and try to work things out. This was done in between stops on the Zoo TV tour. And so I kind of wish, though, that the band would, you think about it, if they could record an album like this, and again, it's not, in my opinion, it's not a classic U2 album, but it's a pretty good album. And if they can do that, then why can't they really go back to relying on spontaneity and just see where it takes them? because they've
Yeah.
done it before, and the result was pretty good.
So it's definitely a mixed bag. And I thought of this too. What else was happening in 1990? Remember, grunge was the thing, and it didn't help that that was the dominant kind of mood and vibe for not just music but culture. And so this didn't sound really like the flavor of the day, And for them to be taking kind of this techno trip, it certainly wasn't fashionable.
But yet, I think they were. I mean, through the '90s, I guess as a whole, they were pretty ambitious and pretty cutting edge when it came to being able to incorporate different styles into the U2 sound. They didn't kind of rest on their laurels on their successes in the '90s. And again, I mean, this Zooropa is just another example of that, and Pop's a real good example of that.
Yeah, you're right. And I always think that, well, they could have always just made part 2 of the previous album. Like when Unforgettable Fire came out, it was a risk because it was different. It wasn't another version of War. And that's played true throughout their career. And so this is a good example of that. I think they were still pushing. I think they were creative and innovative and all those things. And again, I think it's probably the choice of songs that came out that, oh, well, maybe those songs they put on this album, if they would have just maybe changed a couple of them, maybe it would have been better received. But either way, you want to dive right in. I mean, this is something I've been listening to for the better part of 3 weeks. And I got to say, I'm more familiar with it than I ever was. I have a deeper appreciation and in some ways a deeper apathy for some songs. Yeah, here we go. The album is Zooropa. Track 1, the title track, Zooropa.
What do you want?
Be all that you can be a winner. Eat to get slimmer.
Zooropa. What do you think?
One of my favorite tracks on the album. I don't know. It's interesting because I think the first line of the song is in German. So it's almost like they're saying, okay, we're going to piggyback a little bit off Achtung Baby. The guts of the song is really still different than what was on Achtung Baby. I think it's an album. I think it's a song where there's a spiritual yearning for something deeper other than materialism. I mean, if you were to nutshell that song, I think that's the gist of it, is that it's this deeper yearning for something other than consumerism and materialism.
Yeah, for sure. That German phrase is Vorsprung durch Technik, which is roughly translated to advancement through technology.
Yes, I was not going to risk mispronouncing that.
Well, I did my best, so
You did well.
I mean, that is the Audi advertising slogan, which I think is just a coincidence. It just
An Audi?
Audi.
It's not opposed to an any, but
I don't mean a belly button.
as opposed to a Toyota.
I don't know if the branding for the belly button. Yeah, so that's what they use, and you can see how that would be for them. And then you apply that to this song, which clearly is, like you said, it questions a lot of the existence of humankind with the expectation, with a bunch of kind of advertising slogans, that they were like, fly to friendly skies, eat to get slimmer. And the first thing you hear is, what do you want? And, what do you want? And
that question is never answered in the song.
Right. And so that's kind of juxtaposed with what do you want? And then the materialism, the commercial advertising slogans, eat to get slimmer, do all these things. And, you never get to a resolution, but it kind of puts those two things at odds, like material culture and then like the spiritual quest of a person. And again, it's not really the digital age quite yet because we're not connected via the internet, but you get the sense it's the beginning of that because they're talking about things that might or might not be be real versus false versus, there's a distrust of technology, that whole vibe in there. And I'm not sure. I always wondered if I thought it was Edge who said, "What do you want?"
No, it's
And
Larry Moore.
it is Larry. And so somebody on Facebook chimed in and said, "Who is that?" And I believe you. I think it is. And I think that's super cool because you don't get to hear the guy.
I've this album thematically is really a 21st century album when we look at some of the underlying themes that are being pushed out by the band here. Again, this idea of consumerism and how does one find a deeper meaning of self in a techno-driven world. And this is 93, the internet's out there, but nobody really understands it.
Yeah, not
very
really.
Very few people have it at home. And yet
No,
it's almost like the band was able to look into their crystal ball and see the evolution of technology, because if they thought it was that issue was a challenge in 1993, imagine, I mean, it morphs to those type of challenges that we faced in 2021.
It was the beginning of that with the information age and the dozens and dozens of cable channels or satellite channels. Remember Springsteen, the 57 channels and nothing on. That was accurate, because who's going to have more than 57 channels?
Right.
But that whole idea was just the very beginning of this information overload, which became the whole Zoo TV tour, the barrage of data and information. So I like this song a lot. I enjoy it. I think aesthetically it is fun for me to listen to. I enjoy the sounds. I enjoy the whole vibe of it. And the subtext is kind of a bonus because it's cool. I like it. I like the whole especially the second half when it kicks in with the more of a rock sound, when the guitar really comes in strong. I like that. And I do like the way the vocals come in with he's saying, "I have no religion." And, that's definitely a picture of 21st century humankind, that what are we even doing?
As the artist, I understand why they sloganized for the first half of the song. I get that. It fits artistically. But as a listener, it's the dead spot in the song because you can't really, I mean, you give me two or three of those little cliche slogans and I get it, fine, let's move on. But we'd have to just continue on and on and on and on for another minute and a half with that. Again, artistically, I get it. But as a listener, and I really like the song, but I love the intro. I love the end of the song, but the middle part of the song just, sometimes I wish I could just go, let me splice this and take this out. And then let me put let's put all that together and we rework the song.
Well, you can't do that. You have the MP3s and you can go into the free software Audacity and digitally.
Audacity.
That's what it's called.
I use all dials. So I don't, that's why I laughed. I never heard of Audacity.
Well, you got some nerve saying Audacity.
Well done.
Here's what I definitely like this song.
This is one of the best songs. Having taken a swipe at it, I will say it's one of the best songs on the album. I think it's almost like Where the Streets Have No Name and Zoo Station Had a Baby.
Okay. I'm gonna meditate on that for a minute.
With the crescendo intro and
okay.
I'm not saying it's it doesn't doesn't have an identity of its own, but I think there's some similarities there.
There's no question. I agree with you. It's one of the strongest songs on the album, and it's a good opener. U2 has a thing for strong opening songs. I like how it doesn't start out. It has that in common with Streets because it starts with a fade in.
Yep.
it sounds like something Radiohead might have put out.
Yeah, yeah.
Way it
Good point.
comes in with those kind of sounds. So, by the way, who is the producer of this album?
Flood.
Flood would work with them for years to come, and his big thing is as a mixer and sound engineer. But he got to do more on this album as the full on producer. Now, I think it's the first time he's been that for them, right?
He was. I think he was. This was the. I believe this was the first album where he was given primary production credit.
Well, it's definitely a good song, Zooropa. I know they don't play it or anything else except for Far Away So Close in concert.
I saw them play. They played this on 360.
No kidding.
Yeah, they did. It was good. It was good. I saw them play this in Nashville. Yeah, it was good.
Okay, ask me about the next song.
Track 2, Babyface.
Babyface, babyface, slow down, child, let me untie your lace. Babyface, babyface, cover girl with natural grace. How could we be so kind to an ordinary guy?
What do you got?
Weird, but I like it. Okay, so it's got this trope, which it's about some guy who's watching a TV personality, I guess, like a newscaster that he is obsessed with. Okay, and it's something we've heard before in pop culture. I've heard songs about this kind of thing, this idea. There's this Travis Bickle type character who's like, I don't know, has some strange one-way connection to the TV personality. But I mean, I've heard it before, but it works here really well because the music is so good and the music drives ahead. It's almost a positive music with this acute loneliness, flowing underneath it. It's such a great hook, and I am a sucker for a great hook. Babyface has stuck with me, and I've heard this song in my head for 2 weeks solid. It's a favorite.
Is it a song about a guy who just has this unique infatuation with someone on TV? Is it a story of a man who has a sexual affinity towards something he's seeing on TV, i.e. pornography? Or is the whole entire song metaphorical?
Or different shades of any of those.
Yeah, right.
It's definitely in keeping with this whole disconnect between human life and technology that kicked off with the first song. And now this kind of flows right into it, that there is this disconnect. What humans long for, he's trying to connect with through a screen, whether it's the 6 o'clock news anchor or whether it's pornography. I don't think that's the point. It's something he thinks he has this connection with, or he's trying to create this artificial. It's a great line when he says, watching your bright blue eyes
In the freeze frame.
in the freeze frame. I've seen him so many times. I feel like I must be your best friend.
Yeah.
Line. I like that a lot
Yeah.
because he's thinking, how could we not have this connection? How could we not? And that's a lot of what you hear, a lot of these loners and disturbed individuals who feel like they have a relationship with a celebrity,
Right.
that it's only one way, but they think, I mean, it goes back to,
Jodie Foster-ish.
goes back to Jodie Foster. And
Yes.
so in that way, I think it fits. I like that he's exploring this, this dark content. And I like the song. It's definitely catchy. I like the sound. Good stuff.
It's a dead spot in the album for me. Doesn't do much for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, just never has. Nope.
Yeah.
There are songs on here. This would be near the bottom of the list for me on least favorite tracks.
So
on the
let me
album.
ask you this. If you put this into your Panasonic cassette deck,
Mhm.
you would use the music search function to fast forward through this and start at the next song.
If I had my Alpine stereo system like I did in my first vehicle,
Yep.
then yes, I would hit the button and it would skip. We'll just leave it at that for now. It would skip past the song.
Okay.
I still go to the song every now and then, and there are some nice little lines in there that, I have to give credit to him for writing some, neat little lines, but I don't know.
Listen, neat. Oh, that's neat. He wrote some neat little lines.
Just precious.
Feel like I must be your best friend.
I've always
good.
what was tinfoil hair all tied up in lace.
Yeah.
That's a nice
I like
let me untie your lace.
untie your lace, give me a taste, unpack my case.
Right.
I mean, he's busting rhymes all over here.
Busting rhymes.
Coming to me from outer space. How could beauty be so kind to an ordinary guy? Again, this is not poetry on the level of what we've gushed over with the previous two albums and also things before that. Like, imagine if this album had come out from another artist. If another group would have put this album out, we probably would think it's awesome. But there's an expectation.
Because
of greatness.
The average U2 album is still, and at the risk of sounding like a groupie, is still better than 95% of the other stuff out there.
Well, I think anybody listening to this podcast would have no problem with thinking that, because if we're fans, that's probably true. We all probably think to some degree that that's true, So
well, yeah, but and I know that fans of other groups might say the same thing, but U2 fans are very sharp.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not like they're 38 Special fans or anything.
No, we are smart. We are Groot.
All right.
So, okay, here we go.
All I got on Babyface. That's all I got.
You gone? Okay. Track 3, Numb. Go.
It was released as a single, but it failed to really have much success. Nothing really on the album had a lot of success on the singles chart. Again, it goes back to what I said previously. I get what they were trying to achieve artistically with the monotone approach, but I think it doesn't lay well with the listener, at least from my perspective. I think almost that, and this is not a slide on Edge's vocals at all. It's a slide on maybe how the song was arranged. But I'm not so sure that the background vocals shouldn't have been the primary vocals and that the lead vocals shouldn't have been the background vocals, because I like what Bono does in the background more than I like what Edge does in the foreground on this song.
Yeah, I find myself kind of waiting for the falsetto to come in.
Yeah, you're basically waiting for some hint of a consistent melody.
But then part of that maybe is intentional, because it is.
Yeah, sure, I'm sure it was.
It's the illustration of drudgery of life, and the song's called Numb, so the monotone, low register kind of that.
How do you? It's difficult to write a song about being numb, I guess, and write it with a really great hook, because you're getting this rub in between the melody and the sound versus the lyric.
Yeah, but they've written some songs about feeling numb and spiritually dead before that didn't sound like this. So, the song Ultraviolet or Running to Stand Still, these are songs that are not monotone, but they have found other ways to express that same similar type feeling. I think it's great. It's experimental. It's definitely something that they tried. I don't know if it's 100% successful, but I like that they tried it. I think it's a valuable part of their evolution, a valuable piece in them evolving into who they are going to be next. I like it. I'm not going to let it play every single time, but I value it. I think it's a perfect B-side for an Achtung Baby single, right?
Yeah.
If this song was the flip side of Mysterious Ways, you and I would both be like, oh, that is radical.
But, we can't have it both ways, though, because the band here is being very spontaneous. and they're giving you something different than what they've given you before, particularly when contrasted against their material in the 80s.
Yeah.
So they're being spontaneous. They're going, hey, we're going to just throw all this stuff together, let it stick on the wall. We'll sort it out, and we're going to release it as an album.
Yeah.
And now one of the biggest gripes against the band is that they're too deliberate. So I think for me, I would like to see a little bit more balance, like what they had in the 90s, when they could go, you know what, we're going to take this and throw it on the wall and just let it stick, and then we'll sort it out and spit it out as an album, versus let's be deliberate and wait 4 years and just micromanage the material to death and then release it.
Yeah. I see what you mean.
I definitely think that this was unfortunate to be the choice for the lead single off the new album.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the thought was, you know what, we'll chart with this and then we'll bring Stay in, and that will kind of just, that wraps it up into this nice package of songs that we've released off this album. Stay is, clearly, I think, the best song on the album, and yet it didn't chart.
But then again, maybe you're right. I mean, look how many times U2 has released the first single off the album. Maybe it's the most accessible, radio ready, hit bound. Joey Ramone, certainly not the best song off the album, but the first single. So they would release that song and they'd get a hit out of it or whatever. And then, we'd realize there are many more songs that are better. And all of us fanboys would be like, that's not even the best song on the album.
When you take a macro view of a band, there's a part of that band where you want to say, you know what? Yeah, this band plays it safe here and they do this, but there's a part of this band that pushes the limits, and we like that. We want that out of our band. So you're willing to accept that, because it more accurately defines your conception of who the band is, even if that material is numb-like.
But here's the thing. I look back now, and it's a better song than I remembered it being. The more distance I get from this album, the warmer I get to it. It's still not my favorite, and I don't put it in the top category.
This song doesn't sound dated. I think it's worn pretty well through the years.
It's not grown on me or kind of faded. It's just, I think it's always been to me what it was when I listened to it in 93. Track 4, Lemon. Most likely a song about his mother.
Yeah.
In a movie he saw of his mother wearing a yellow dress. I think it's the longest track on the album, isn't it?
I feel like it
goes. I don't know. Zooropa might be. I don't know.
Yeah. To me, I don't know why, but I think of Lemon and Zooropa as being, there's some kind of connection, like they're companion pieces or something. I don't know. Maybe it's some kind of the vibe, the dystopian feeling from it. I don't know. I look at it and it's, there's some good songwriting here. There's some pretty cool lyrics, right? It's definitely not, okay, this is not the highlight of his writing, but it's not terrible.
It's better than Numb. I think you're right. I think that there's some good songwriting there. I think the song is a bit too long. You have that bridge / interlude in the middle that is, I don't know, it kind of makes the song drag. I have to give Bono credit for singing in a high register in the song, but I prefer it, generally speaking, when he doesn't do that and he doesn't go falsetto.
Okay, so I don't think we have a lot to say about Lemon.
Do you like it? Do you not like it? Is it kind of meh?
No, it's one of the tracks I enjoy the most on the album. So it's definitely in the top half.
Mhm.
I mean, some of the comments on Facebook and Twitter are really interesting. You know, they say it's an album that's improved over time, says one person. Excellent. Somebody else says, I love it. Love the unique and different vibe of many of the songs. It speaks to me in ways I cannot describe. And this is what we talked about. We talk about this all the time. Art is what? It's subjective. We can't say, oh, this album is not as good as that album. There's no empirical data that shows that Achtung Baby is better.
When someone can give you a really cogent argument on why they like an album over another album, even if it's, say, Zooropa over the Joshua Tree, then you have to give that some degree of credence, because you know that they're not just throwing it out there and saying, oh, I just like this album better than Joshua Tree.
It's in the eye of the beholder. A lot of evidence would suggest, certain levels of quality and certain pieces of work. But, I mean, I've been blown away, and I appreciate the comments that have been out there. Nobody has said on Facebook or Twitter that it's terrible. I haven't seen that. And everyone came back and said the songs they liked from it, and that was excellent. And so, it's an underrated classic to a lot of people. One person even said it's part of their U2 holy trinity of Achtung Baby, Zooropa, and Pop. How about that?
Oh, really? So we talked about this before we came on, and generally there's a consensus for a reason on why Joshua Tree and Achtung Baby are 1, 2 in either order, however you want to rank them, 1 and 2, 2 and 1. I kind of envision it like a bell curve. That's the consensus. That's the top of the bell. But there are still some people who are going to, again, and quite often, I think, probably provide a pretty intelligent reason or reasons why maybe Zooropa is better than Joshua Tree, or why All That You Can't Leave Behind is better than Achtung Baby. If they can put together, I think, a sound, reasonable argument there, while I might not agree, I have to respect it, as opposed to someone who just says, well, I just like it because it sounds good.
But still, you know what? You can't argue with that either, because what do you mean? It's like I like broccoli, or I like ice cream. You can't say no, you don't.
No, it's like what you said not too long ago. If you really like something, you ought to be able to give reasons why you do like it.
Yeah, but then again, when you get all the way down to the soul, some things cannot be fully expressed. Some things are in your gut.
Like our friend Craig Spinner, The Hill He Will Die On is that Unforgettable Fire is the best U2 album.
Craig can probably defend that pretty well, too.
A lot of it, so much of it, most of it, whatever. It goes back to the way you experience that particular album.
Yeah, because you can't always, as much as we want to do this, I think, you can't always separate the art from the ears and the soul of the listeners, so that those kind of become at some point entwined, and you can't say, it's a better album for this reason. It all kind of becomes kind of intermingled.
It's a musical journey.
I was waiting for that.
So Shayna, who's a Facebook friend, she really loves this album, and in particular this song, and she says how this song really came to life on tour, live version of this song. And I think that's a big part of it too. If you saw these songs live, then they had a deeper, more impactful, it meant more to you. They were brought to life.
It's like Exit.
Just like Exit.
Springsteen's Youngstown.
Or Springsteen's Youngstown. Okay, so let's see. Where are we? About halfway through, right? This is Rock and Roll Doggies, two lifelong friends breaking down music. It's been important in our lives. U2, album by album, track by track. Jason and the Smurf. We're talking Zooropa, and we are at the track now that it's probably been the most well-received. It has stood up and lasted the longest as far as the people considering it the best song on the album, the quality high mark of the album. It's Stay Far Away So Close. Don, what do you think?
Stay was, I think we mentioned this earlier, it was left over from the Octung Baby sessions. Bono has called it perhaps U2's best song. I don't know. I've always kind of, I think this album lends itself to kind of metaphorical interpretations. I've kind of always viewed this as kind of the battered woman syndrome.
Yeah.
The battered wife. And it's clearly the best song on the album. And probably one of the top two, maybe three or four songs they've recorded in the 90s. I mean, just the songwriting here is, and the imagery of dressed up like a car crash, your wheels are turning, but you're upside down. Red lights, gray morning, you stumble out of a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
If you listen, I can't call, and if you jump, you just might fall, and if you shout, I'll only hear you. That's good.
And I like how it shows that it can be an ordinary song musically, nothing special. This is not a great sonic achievement, but still can be a great song. It relies totally on the strength of its lyrics, the words themselves. So, hey, did you know that it was actually based on Frank Sinatra? Actually, at one time was called Frank Sinatra.
I
don't even understand.
Yeah, I think so. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, so somehow the filmmaker Wim Wenders he made a movie, Far Away So Close. This song was in it or part of it or something. And so somehow that all kind of conflated into just the song having that title. But the Sinatra connection, I'm not sure what that even signifies.
I love me some Sinatra now.
So Jimmy Kimmel recently asked Bruce Springsteen, if you could only listen to one song the rest of your life, what would it be? And Bruce took about 3 seconds and he said, Summer Wind, Frank Sinatra.
Huh. That's good.
Isn't that
Summer
perfect?
Wind's a good tune, yeah.
So this is widely considered the best song on the album. It is one that is played frequently in concert. It has survived through the decades of being a live favorite. It seems to be the story of a woman in an abusive relationship with nowhere else to go. There's a lot of great lyrics in this song. A lot of really nice pictures, sketches. My favorite line, of course, is 7-Eleven. You walk in for a pack of cigarettes. You don't smoke. You don't even want to. Hey, now, check your change.
Yeah, you have this. It kind of, he uses imagery here to kind of project this idea of kind of almost almost like someone who's homeless and drunk and stumbling in from being out all night and just kind of stumbling from one moment in life to the next.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. I mean, I've seen those people. I've known those people. I've been, I've felt that way. I feel like I've been one of those people, at least for a time. So it's a couple of things for me. It's the minutia of life, or it is the ordinary moments that we go through. And so you stop in for a pack of cigarettes. This person's life has been reduced to such minutia, and this might even be the biggest part of their day, going to 7-Eleven for cigarettes. And so we get a small glimpse into their existence and their mentality. Plus, it also just zeroes in on, don't forget to count the change you got back. This is how small this person's life has become. That is something that they think about doing.
That's a good observation.
And of course, it is about an abusive relationship. That's what the story is. But I mean, I don't think I even realized that. Maybe at first I kind of adopted that feeling of helplessness and the lost feeling. And for me, that's what the song was about. And the lyrics are just so strong. You're dressed up like a car crash. Oh, that's good stuff.
I go to the end of it, just the bang and the clatter as an angel hits the ground. And I like how it's a really sad song, because I think if there's a narrative here, you begin to see where this woman is really kind of the unwilling She's being kind of dragged along in her friend / lover's misfortunes, poor decisions, whatever you want to call it. And she's trying to bring him back and bring him back and bring him back. And so she has this sort of nobility about her, if you want to call it angelic, whatever. But at the end of the song, she hits the ground, and that's how the song ends. So there's no fade out. There's no, he doesn't work around it. It hits the ground, and then that's it. That's the song. That's how it ends.
And there's no redemption.
Right. There's no redemption. There's no second. There's nothing. The angel hits the ground. That's it.
That either means that literally this person jumped and took their own life, hit the ground, or metaphorically, and I don't even know if that's really important to make that distinction. It's you either hit the ground with a thud because your life is that desperate and that's where you are mentally and spiritually, or it's a portrait, not necessarily an outcome.
Yeah, or he's making a comparison between the impact of hitting the ground, which is catastrophic if not fatal, and the same impact that would happen to someone on an emotional level.
Yeah,
which
right.
could have, there are people that are destroyed emotionally who never recover. And there are people that are destroyed physically that never recover. So I think that it's whether it is literal, whether he's talking about it physically or emotionally, the end result is something significant has died.
Yeah, that's well said.
Track 6, Daddy's Gonna Pay for Your Crash Car. Not one of my favorites.
Yeah, this is their latest full sentence title. Daddy's gonna pay for your crash car.
Who's daddy?
Or who is daddy?
Who's daddy?
Who's your daddy?
Who's your daddy?
What's it about?
Is this yet another in a long line of songs about desperation, i.e., and heroin addiction? Or is it about chemical dependency? The Edge said, no, not specifically heroin. Okay, what still? Is it about dependency? Or is this an analogy of God taking care of all the stuff you've screwed up in your life? Or, like a rich father of an entitled kid? I don't know. Both, neither, sort of. It doesn't grab me. It's never grabbed me. What about you?
It tugs at me a little bit. I don't know that it grabs me. I think it is, my personal opinion is it does. He speaks to me as daddy's a comfort, daddy's your best friend. But, a lot of these words are, you could say the same thing about God. And maybe that's what the song is about. You've got, you can take the avenue of chemical dependency and take that to its very end, or you can take the dependency on God the Father and take that to the very end. And really, there's a lot of analogy between what both of those offer up to a point.
Yeah, except there's one key line that I think it suggests more strongly to me that it's a heroin addiction. That he gives you the keys to a flaming car. Unless he's just being cute about God being a little bit of a flawed notion.
Or does it speak to our free will?
Yeah, and I think also this is another phase of evolution of their spirituality, of Bono, the songwriter, and his spiritual journey. And we all have these, and I think that it would be selling it short and selling him short to say, oh, he's going through a period of wondering what he believes. Come on, don't disrespect and don't minimize it by saying that. But I think we all have journeys. I certainly have that myself, of wondering the nature of God and my relationship, and just, different theological ideas and all of that, that I think this could easily be his expression there too. Like, look at Wake Up Dead Man. That's a song about doubt or anger toward God. This is completely healthy and completely in keeping with all of his other beliefs,
Mm.
So I think maybe this could be ambiguous, and I could live with that. It could be like, is it about drugs? Is it about a jaded idea of God that you're not sure you believe in? Okay. And in
Well,
that way, it makes me like it more.
I've always viewed it as being a song about heroin addiction, although I don't know that there's anything in there that necessarily points it
Yeah.
toward being heroin.
Right.
I don't even know why I think that, but I will always have had it in my mind that it was about heroin addiction. But
If this song had more kick-ass music, I would like it more. I just think the music is bland. And I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that I feel that way. Somebody else on social media said, I feel bad. I felt guilty for years that I didn't like it. And I can relate. It's like, I wish, because of the song, the lyrics and all this, I like all that. If this had the music of, I don't know, In God's Country, just top of my head, then I get it. I would like that more. It's definitely a song title that I remember more so than the way the song actually goes. I can't really even hear the song in my head, and I just feel like the music itself is flat and just didn't grab me. So sorry.
yeah, it's there. I don't say it's the worst song in the album, but it's lower tier.
So to me, the next track is also a lower tier.
Some days are better than others. Some days it all adds up, and what you got is enough. Some days are better than others.
And this might be the worst track on the album.
Some days are better than others. I don't get this song. I don't. I feel like it's a deep track, a lost cut, a basement tape, a song in the attic.
Billy Joel album?
You know what I'm saying. It's just, here's this song, and we did it on a goof, and it's fun. It's like Party Girl. I don't know. It just, we recorded this at 3 a.m. We were all snackered. It's not very substantive. And every song by U2 doesn't have to be a reading of the gospel and the ultimate everything. But
Okay, so let's go back to, so we're talking about some days are better than others. Let's go back to my comment that I made earlier. Why would the band include this on the album and push back If God Will Send His Angels to pop, or If You Wear That Velvet Dress, or Wake Up Dead Man? Why?
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you say, you know what, this is just not, let's put this aside. Maybe it's a B-side. Maybe we never release it. Maybe we rework it and release it in a better form somewhere down the road. But this song beat out Wake Up Dead Man and If God Will Send His Angels and Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me. Come on.
I don't know. And I mean, maybe they heard something that we didn't hear, right? To me, this is a demo that was maybe turned into a great song, a different song, right? It doesn't feel like it's a complete work. But I don't know. I don't hate it. It's just kind of there.
The only thing that I think is to me that is really potentially redeeming about the song is I think there's an undercurrent here about realizing a blessing even when you're blinded to the blessings of the monotony of life. So you get caught in the monotony of life and you don't realize the blessings that you're enjoying because of that monotony.
And I think that is an admirable and honorable, very good truth. I just think that it is so elementary.
Yeah, if you're trying to convey that, could you not have conveyed it in a way that wasn't so hackneyed?
I mean, we've gone from the writing of,
Stay.
well, not just Stay, but of previous albums. I mean, the heights of the great writing, groundbreaking rock lyrics like no one has ever put out before. The height of rock poetry. Okay? And then here we are with this, like, I don't know, it's like a kiddie song. Hey, some days are awesome, but some days are not very good. Don't let the bad days get you down. I mean, what are we doing?
Right.
It's like an after-school special.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is. It's very. It's like something you read in. I don't know. It's like somebody's signature on the bottom of an email or something. Some days are better than others. Tomorrow's going to be a better day.
Yeah.
Keep your chin up.
Like somebody's got a case of the Mondays. Some days you feel like a bit of a baby looking for Jesus and his mother. Some days are better than others. I don't feel like that redeems it and makes it all of a sudden a spiritual truth, with layers of depth. I still feel like it's just namby-pamby.
Has there ever been a day where you couldn't stand the sight of a puppy?
Nope.
I
mean,
I don't know.
That's not good writing. I just think that who
I know.
Who did you pay to be Bono for the day and write this song?
And who did you pay? Who was in bed with who to be able to stick this song on track 7 and leave off If God Will Send His Angels?
Okay, I do like the line, your skin is white, but you think you're a brother.
It's
like
okay.
That.
It's okay.
It's funny. It's
a
smile. Like some days you can't stand the sight of a puppy. That is just awkward, man.
What does that even mean? I mean, what can't stand the sight? What's wrong with him? Who doesn't love a puppy?
I know.
I can't believe we're spending this much time talking about this song, to be quite honest. It's not worthy of it.
That's like something I wrote in the scribbles, like the elementary school poetry book that came out, that everyone had to contribute a poem and you just had to rhyme it. And I wrote a poem about being an NBA player one day. That's like this is like the level we've got here. I'm going to rhyme sloppy with puppy. No. And I'll tell you the last line of the poem I wrote. I sure do like the NBA. Maybe I'll be there someday.
That's good.
Jason Acquisto.
I'll go with that over a puppy.
Yeah. Yeah,
look,
I'm kind of mad about
this track has received too much discussion.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not worthy. So we're going to move on to track 8, The First Time, which is one of, I think, clearly one of the better songs on the album, I think.
My father is a rich man. He wears a rich man's cloak. He gave me the keys to his kingdom coming. Gave me a cup of gold. He said, I have many mansions, and there are many rooms to see. But I left by the back door, and I threw away the key. And I threw away the key. Yeah, I threw away the key.
It's not an easy song to wrap your brain around. But the whole album is a little bit like that, though. I mean, he's writing about not liking puppies. It was originally written for Al Green.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
I did not know that.
Yep.
What happened?
I don't know. Al Green didn't record it, I guess. Bono did say this: it's about losing your faith. I hadn't lost my faith, but I'm very sympathetic to people who have the courage not to believe. I've seen a lot of people around me have bad experiences with religion, be so badly abused that they feel they can't go there anymore, which is a shame.
Yeah, for sure. And we know people like that. experienced degrees of that in our lives, but that is one of the tragedies of organized religion, for sure. But that's specifically reflected in these lyrics, though, that are really good. When I feel myself going down, I just call and he comes around. But for the first time, I feel love. To me, that is the other side of deconstruction, which is a very trendy thing to do right now, which I feel very close to. But I also feel the flip side of that, reconstruction. I've deconstructed a lot of my own personal faith, but I also reconstructed it. Not everyone wants to reconstruct it, but I feel like that's what happened in this song, at least in those lyrics. For the first time, I feel love, because what you got to get through is the bullshit, if you will, of people and the church, and to the actual essence, which is love, which is God, which is
and what I think he's doing here is he's giving. So, for example, he has a lover in verse 1, he has a brother in verse 2, and he has a father in verse 3. So it's eros, phileo, and agape. So he's outlining all three types of love in one song, and in all three instances, he's painting the giver of that love as almost being supernatural in what they do. So when I'm a brother in need, I spend my whole time running. He spends his running after me. That's almost super. Who does that? Who has the time? What kind of brother would that be that would spend all of his time running after me? I have a lover like no other. She got soul, sweet soul, and she teach me how to sing. She shows me colors when there's none to see, gives me hope when I can't believe. That's a pretty exceptional lover. And then, of course, he goes into into verse 3 and talking about his father. And I think you see the element of doubt or rejection come in, where he says, but I left by the back door and I threw away the key. So he has these, where the person has been the recipient of unconditional heavenly love by different people. And yet at the very end, he turns around, he's given the keys to the kingdom, and he walks away from it.
Great analysis. Eros, phileo, agape. Is this song also kind of the kernel of that feeling that we find later in pop on songs like Wake Up Dead Man? I threw away the key, where, it's a turning away, or at least, a temporary turning away, or some kind of there's nothing wrong with, and we all know that it's fully human, and it's almost to me, it's a holy act itself of doubt, because without doubt, there can be no faith. So I think it's along the same lines of what was expressed later on pop, for sure, is happening right here. I think you're right. This is a sleeper track on the album.
And I think, too, I think it's important to remember that just because an artist writes or sings about something doesn't mean that he's embracing that ideology that's being perpetuated in the song. You don't know the perspective he could be writing strictly in the third person sense.
Sure.
I don't necessarily think that is 100% true here, but if there are elements of the song to which make listeners feel uncomfortable, it could be that he's channeling someone else in the song.
Of course, but he's been so personal and intimate with his lyrics his whole career, that you don't know if Red Hill Mining Town, when he says "I'm hanging on," is he talking about himself or some character that he's created? And it's all good, because every artist, every poet, every creator has that license to do whichever one they want to. Well, Bob Dylan, is that an autobiographical song? I don't know. What do you think?
Every
maybe
poet is a thief.
Right. And then you've got the next track. It's called Dirty Day.
I don't know you, and you don't know the half of it. And a starring role, I was the bad guy who walked out.
These days run away like horses over the hill. It's a reference to Bukowski's 1969 collection of poetry. Now, how many people out there knew that? Yeah, he wrote a poem, I guess, titled "The Days Run Away Like Wild Horses Over the Hill."
So yeah, I've read some Bukowski, but I did not know that one. Did you know that the movie Barfly was about Charles Bukowski?
Did not.
Barfly with Mickey Rourke. Recommended. Where is that lyric in the song?
It's the outro, basically. Yeah. These days run away like horses over the hill. I think I read too that a lot of there's snippets of the song that come from what Bono's father said about him, with things he would say. Consequently, probably has to do with his relationship with his father a little bit. From father to son, in one life has begun a work that's never done, father to son. I've also read too that this was potentially about a lot of things his father was going through. So where his father, almost like he's writing in third person, I had the starring role. I was the bad guy who walked out. Or maybe he's writing this again more from a fictitious perspective, because I don't think his father, I mean, his mother died. His father didn't walk out. They said to be careful where you aim, because where you aim, you just might hit. You could hold on to something so tight, you've already lost it. So there's some sort of family dynamic going on here, some sort of conflict, and et cetera, et cetera.
I think it sounds like something that was written in a quiet moment in a hotel room where it's just him and he's reflecting on these. It's almost a dirge. It's just a guitar. All these little nuggets, I think, can be first person. They could be third person, or any combination of that. I definitely think a lot of his father comes out in this song, or his relationship with him. Like you said, I had a starring role means he became famous when he was, 18, 19? And does he feel like guilt because he's the one who left, he left Dublin and went to be a rock star? Not that his father didn't want him to do that, but they had this dynamic that it was just them and I guess his brother, right? He had one brother. So, does he feel guilt because he left his father there and he walked out? But I mean, all these little idioms throughout the song really talk about these intimate feelings. You can hold on to something so tight, you've already lost it. This is definitely him spelunking through those feelings.
Ooh, spelunking.
You can't even remember.
First time that's been thrown out on the podcast.
You can't even remember what I'm trying to forget.
That phrase always kind of came back to that phrase. It was a bit troublesome for me, and I don't know why.
Think about it though. How many times has something bothered you or stuck with you, either for better or worse? There are things that I think about that were significant in my life, that the person who was involved with it, I guarantee they don't remember it.
Right.
And I think that's what happened with his father. There's things that formed him, who he is, but that his father would be like, I don't remember that at all.
It's a song, perhaps more than any other song on the album, probably more than I don't know. I guess you could make a case for this on the next track, but I think it's, as much as any song on the album, is open to vast interpretation, because there's just a lot of ambiguity there. And I think you're right. I think that it could be a kind of an amalgamation of multiple characters. It could be about his relationship with his father. It could be, I kind of looked at, I had a starring role. I was a bad guy who walked out. I get what you're saying there, that could be Bono. I guess the starring role I kind of looked at as being head of a household. I was a bad guy who walked out. If you're going to take the road of saying that this is perhaps fictitious or a third person perspective, I don't know. It's really open to interpretation, I think, more so than anything on the album.
Maybe so. Yeah. And again, maybe that's part of the beauty of it, is that this template can be laid over any relationship that the listener has. And I might lay this across the top of my father, especially with that one line we just talked about, with you can't remember things that were important to me.
just different things that you feel. It doesn't have to be what he meant by this song, which is the beauty of art.
I'm in you more so when they put me in the ground.
Oh, now that's good.
Yeah, that's that one just kind of hit me as being, when you read the lyric and you kind of let it ruminate for a few seconds, I think you gain sometimes a greater perspective on its impact than you would if you just hear it in a song. But that's really good.
Yeah, no kidding. This song is definitely in the upper half of the songs on this album.
It's
One
not
life has
lower
begun,
half.
a work that's never done.
Yeah.
Life goes on. So
Track 10.
And this closing track, "The Wanderer," is so weird. What's happening? That sounds like Johnny Cash.
I went out walking through streets paved with gold, lifted some stones, saw the skin and bones of a city without a soul. I went out walking under an atomic sky, where the ground won't turn and the rain it burns like the tears when I said goodbye. Yeah, I went with nothing but the thought of you. I went wandering.
And then you hear Bono, he comes in at the very end, or, he does a little background hoop-de-doo. But this is definitely a Johnny Cash song. That choice still puzzles me, as you know, and I think you are also an enormous Johnny Cash fan. I am a huge fan. Love his music. Love who he is and what he's meant to, musical history. This is before his big rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget that when this came out, Johnny Cash wasn't the Johnny Cash that was Rick Rubin created.
Well, is that true? Did when was American Recordings released? The
this
first
came out right before.
Okay.
Look it up. You got the internet at home there. Look up your Prodigy account.
Prodigy account.
Go to yahoo.com. So I think this was before his first, but want me to look that up or you?
I'll look it up.
Okay. So I'll talk about The Wanderer. It's definitely man's search for God. Here's an interesting take. Johnny, or the singer, represents America. All right, hang with me here. Streets paved with gold. The symbols, all the strong symbols of America, for better or worse. The Bible, atomic sky, guns, all the extremes and contradictions. Jesus, I'll be home soon. So what does that mean? Does that mean the end is coming soon, or is it just a poetic way to kind of close it out that, I'm nearing the end of my life, or something else? This is, if it wasn't literally before the new Johnny Cash, it was the beginning of kind of that late period of Johnny Cash, which was so wonderful, produced by Rick Rubin, where he had the American recordings and all of that soulful, just great music that he put out. So this song is really strong. I like the alarm at the end. I think that's the most U2 thing on this album.
Yeah, it's I artistically I get it as a listener, but
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
I just
what I disliked about that the most was that I had what was called a Sony sound machine, and you put your CD on, and I could go to bed with it at night, and I could hit repeat, and I could just repeat the disc all night long. And I felt I couldn't do that with this album because it's stupid alarm.
Nice.
Felt like I needed to wake up at 11:45 at night, and then again at 1 o'clock. And
so, what'd you find out?
We're probably splitting hairs. It was no, you're right. It was actually recorded May 17th through the 20th in 1993, but it wasn't released until April 26th of 94. I didn't know this, and we're getting off topic a little bit, but nonetheless, it was for the studio. It says Rick Rubin's living room.
Fantastic.
I actually had a brush with fame with Johnny Cash once. I was 4 years old, and for some reason, I don't know, 3 or 4, and for some reason we were down near in Nashville, well, Hendersonville, and I don't know why, but my parents decided they want to go check out Johnny Cash's house. So we drive to Johnny Cash's house, and Johnny and the family are getting out of the car, and Mom says, "Wave to Johnny." And I waved to Johnny, and Johnny and the family waved back, and Dad's got it on film.
No
So,
way.
yeah, I've got a picture. Heck, who knows? Maybe we'll put on social media of me at about age 3 or 4, sitting on the rail in front of Johnny Cash's house.
I think I've seen that picture.
Yeah, I think you have. Yeah.
So your dad's got that on film. So that was like an 8mm film camera,
It was old. Yes, sir.
like that old timey kind of like
Yes.
Wonder Years. All right.
Yes. It was Wonder Year-esque. Yeah.
Wave to Johnny.
Um, so,
And out of that, he wrote, "I hurt myself
gosh,
today."
well, he didn't write that.
I feel like he did.
I know it. Yeah. Well, when you see the video, then you go, he had to have written it.
I know.
Although he didn't, but the video is, unparalleled in
So
its excellence.
okay, so here's Johnny about to be this late period Johnny Cash that was like this incredible figure, but he was just starting that out. So here he appears on this album singing on this track. It wasn't the most trendy thing, to do. What did you think?
Something I've always been intrigued about with this track is how they could pull off techno and make it sound like it was coming out of the American West. It was almost like, I don't know, In God's Country meets, something off Zooropa. Here's what Bono said, though. This is interesting. He said, "I wrote the lyric based on the book of Ecclesiastes in the Old Testament, which in some translations is called The Preacher. It's a story of intellectual wanderlust. The preacher wants to find out the meaning of life, so he tries a bit of everything. He tries knowledge, educates himself, reads every book, but that doesn't do it. So he travels, he sees every sight, but that doesn't do it. He tries wine, women, and song, that doesn't do it either. All he says is vanity, vanity of vanity, striving after the wind. As you read this book, you think, I can't wait to hear what does it. And the most extraordinary line is, there's nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. So love your work. That's what it is. It's good to love what you do. I think there's a lot to that. So those were his comments about it. It's kind of a pretty flowery way, a poetic way to express that. But it's a song. I think it's, there's just I referenced it on Dirty Day. The last 2 songs on this album are very ambiguous. There's a lot of interpretation there. It's a wonderful track. I don't know, top 3 for me on the album. Cash recorded the vocals when they were in Dublin, and Bono recorded the vocals as well, but he preferred Johnny Cash's, and I'm glad he did.
And it's not a duet. What an interesting choice. It's not B.B. King.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
That's right.
not trading off verses. So I applaud that choice and the many other choices that were made on this album. I applaud the way that they made them without thinking what is going to be most well received, or maybe or not. Who knows? But I think there's an artistic integrity that not everything is going to work. But you know what? Going with what we want to do. This is our artistic expression. And, whether it works or not, a lot of that's in the eye of the beholder. And that's why we listen to music.
It's almost, I think the song is impulsive. And that, hey, Johnny's in town. You know what? Let's see if we can bring him over here. And yeah, let's try to record this. And so they wind up sticking Johnny Cash on an album that is very, if you can say this about Cash, it's very different than what Cash might typically do. I mean, it would be like bringing in Chris Christopherson and putting him on a U2 album. And I think, it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, where they just kind of go, hey, let's just throw this up there and see if it sticks. Hey, Johnny Cash is it? Let's bring him over and see if we can record this Wanderer thing.
Okay. I mean, it wasn't meticulously planned out from the very beginning. This wasn't the grand design. They didn't vision board this. It's a patchwork more than anything else, right? It started out as one thing, and then it evolved into another thing. It started out as an EP, and it evolved into something else that really, some parts I think are really good, and some parts to me are weak.
This is if you have songs that I don't know, maybe Numb is one of them, where you throw it against the wall and it sticks and you go, we're going to go with it. And it's not really all that good.
Yeah.
It's not up to what most people would call U2 standards, however you want to define that. But this is a song where they threw it up against the wall. And this is a song where spontaneity really did them a favor.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of, this is the kind of material that I think U2 fans would like to see more of these days, where they do take the better part of spontaneity and spit out something that's, really good tune.
Think about this. What if Johnny didn't become, the flavor of the month right after this came out, and the next day kind of became the new Johnny Cash, or the latter days Johnny Cash that everyone loved and adored, the Rick Rubin produced latter day record. What if it had been Chris Christopherson, or somebody else, another legendary giant of the industry, and not someone who became this, in vogue type figure?
I think U2 was at a point though where they were, and I know they had taken some hits in the 80s, but they were at this point arguably the biggest band in the world. So they had a lot of collateral. They had a lot of clout they could use to throw around. I don't think this would have affected, I don't think it would have affected U2 or the opinion of U2 by others had Cash not released American recordings and all of the wonderful work that he did with Rick Rubin. I think it did enhance it retrospectively. It fits well retrospectively.
I think it works because of who he was and not because of who he,
because we want to take Cash, and in this period we want to define him by American recordings, which was like this cool alt / semi-goth grunge kind of Johnny Cash, and that was cool in the 90s because that was kind of who they were making Cash out to be. So he fits in a little bit with the U2s of the world, but he wouldn't have fit in retrospectively all that well if you took the Johnny Cash from, say, the mid to late 70s.
Unless it was the Johnny Cash Good Time TV Hour, which is good show. Good show.
Did you ever watch that? Showtime had a little snippet on about Johnny Cash and him getting in a fight with an emu on his farm. I don't know if you ever saw that. Read up on it. It's really entertaining. He got in a fight with an emu, and he thought the emu kicked him on his belt, or Johnny said he would probably die. Anyway, dig around there. It's a funny little story.
That's the kind of content that you get.
You don't get emu stories just anywhere on the internet.
I heard myself. Okay. So before we get to our rankings, we will remind you this is Rock and Roll Doggies. It's two lifelong friends breaking down music that's been important in our lives. Jason and Don, the Smurf. We have been rolling through Zooropa. And so, Don, here we go. Now we come to the part of the show where we We each give our standout track, our choice for underrated track, our choice for best lyrics, and then we give an overall scale or an overall ranking on a 10 scale. You know, how good or bad is the album. So, I will go ahead and go first and jump right in. I think it's kind of obvious. The standout track for me, which pretty much means the best song on the album. Okay, this isn't difficult. This is Stay, Far Away, So Close. Best song on the album. It is the most fully realized song. It is not the most fun, in terms of the music, the aesthetics, but I really enjoy listening to the song. You know, I mean, I like the ear candy, but this has the most substance. This, when it comes down to the overall content of the song, there's nothing that comes close to this song on Zooropa. This stands head and shoulders above the rest, I think. I don't know what else to say. Just, it seems like to me, it is far and away the best track on this collection.
Well done. I really like Edge's guitar. Edge is a master. I think we've talked about this of being a minimalistic but yet a great guitarist, because he knows where his place is, and he knows how to make those around him better. And I think he does that here. Likewise, I will go with Stay. I don't think it's even that close. Best track on the album.
Not so close.
Another pun.
That's a layup right there. A snowbird.
Yeah, it is.
A cherry pick.
It is. It's certainly not going to be Daddy's going to pay for your crash car or any of that mediocre.
I mean, we're not here to talk about how bad some songs are and pile on.
No, we'll do that on Pop. There's one we can crucify on Pop. We'll save that for later.
Okay, spoiler alert. Pop is better.
Yeah, it is.
Than this album, but there is one particular track that might be the object of your wrath. But moving on. Most underrated track. I love this podcast because I get to discover things I did not know that I felt. Like the song, The First Time, that's my choice for underrated track. And before I did a recent deep dive here, went spelunking, it was not. It was going to be something else, probably Zooropa. But the song The First Time, to me, has the most, it has the least attention. It's just like kind of just wedged in there, and it doesn't. I just don't remember it being that talked about that much, and it's just beautiful the way it's all expressed. I think the intimacy of the lyrics, the sadness that's in there, everything is just really genuine and I think heartfelt. And it's not even the, what's ironic is that this album, which had so many experimental sounds, the best music on here is the simplest, just a guitar, Far Away, So Close. And to me, this song, The First Time.
There are a lot of, the album is filled with songs I think that are overlooked for better or for worse. The album itself is I think overlooked because it's kind of looked as being almost like an EP. And this is one of the songs that I think is overlooked. I agree. First Time is also my most underrated track. It's very simplistic. I think it's like I said, you've got one scenario, second scenario, and third scenario. And then in the third scenario, you see where he turns his back, throws away the key, and does his own thing. It's a little bit like Stay, I think, in that it doesn't leave you. It doesn't have that joyous, happy ending. It doesn't. It doesn't wrap up the song and say, "This is what happens." All you know is that he threw away the key, and that's kind of how the song ends. I like the song construct, and it is likewise my most underrated track.
Okay, so you go first on best lyrics.
And by the way, let me say that I probably struggled with the most underrated track on this album more so than I have on anything else up to this point. I really like Zooropa, the song. And like you just said, it kind of forced me to think about, well, what is the hidden track here? What's the song that the truly most underrated track? And so the first time probably beat out Zooropa by a nose. Best lyric, I struggle with this one too, because I didn't think there's anything on here that just punched you in the mouth. But it's still it's been a line that is kind of stuck out in my mind on this entire album as I've listened to it over the past 25, 30 years. Stay with the demons you've drowned. Stay with the spirit that I found. Stay, and the night would be enough.
Yeah, that's good. That's a really good choice. I think that whole song is just so well done. All the imagery in there.
I think the vocals on that song, on that snippet where he goes stay and the night would be, he just belts that out. He goes up high and there's just a lot of volume. There's a lot of passion and power behind that line, given how he sings it.
Yeah, you're right, because the rest of the song is a lesson in restraint.
Yeah.
But then he gives up. It's hard to choose something that's not part of that song because that song is so far above the rest of the album. But I think there are some hidden gems that I learned about recently. First of all, I always loved, and this is whimsical, pack of cigarettes, you don't smoke, don't even want to. Hey, now check your change. We talked about that, the meandering through life, the without having an agency of your own, like your own volition, just kind of stumbling around and, oh, hey, I better make sure I have the right change, just all that. So I think that's really cool. But as far as the poetry, the reason we love this guy's lyrics, I'd say that from father to son in one life has begun a work that's never done. From Dirty Day, which I don't love the song, but I think when you pull that little couplet out, that's my choice for my favorite lyrics.
Yeah, it's strange how it's interesting how a song can be rescued by one or two lines. How you can take a song that you might not really think much about, but that one little snippet can just raise it up, a few notches.
It does. That to me is like, that's reason enough for that to be a 4-minute song or whatever it is. And then the outro with those lines from Bukowski, that's
yeah.
But again, like I said, I've gotten a renewed appreciation for this entire body of work. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to like it, as much as some other ones, but spelunking through here, man, it makes you like it a lot more.
Yeah. Spelunking. I'm a big fan of spelunking through an album.
So on a 10 scale, we're coming off of a 10 and a 9.8, I think, respectively, from Achtung Baby, right?
Achtung Baby, 10 and 9.8. Yes, sir.
Zooropa, I gave it a 7.1. Okay. There was a time I would have given it lower, very low. But again, I've gotten a deeper appreciation, and maybe part of it is because of where I am in my life now. Maybe things that are important to me now didn't matter as much in the mid 90s. Right. And that's why I think that it's great to take another look at these recordings and any kind of art from a fresh perspective. So it's definitely not
Not one of my favorites. It's definitely on the weaker side of their catalog. It's a mishmash. It's imperfect. It's uneven, but there are some moments that I really like out of it. And so that's why I was comfortable to just say it's a 7.1.
I can appreciate that perspective. I'll be honest. You dinged it more than I thought you would. And look, hey, we both know this isn't, at least in our humble opinions, a top tier U2 album. So no, it wasn't going to be given a 9.5 or a 10 like we did the two previous albums.
Yeah.
So that one surprised me a little bit, particularly knowing what I gave it, because I gave it a higher score than you did.
Oh, that doesn't happen very often.
I gave it an 8.2.
Mm.
And I did that by kind of comparing what I'd given other albums in the past. So I thought it was better than Boy.
Yeah.
I thought it was better than October. I thought it was, let's see, equal to
War. You ranked it better than
War. And then, of course, when we get into Unforgettable Fire, Joshua Tree, I didn't think it was as good as Rattle and Hum. I think it was good as Octung Baby or Joshua Tree or Unforgettable Fire. So I gave it a, what did I say, 8.2.
So you ranked it higher than Boy and higher than October and higher than War.
Yeah, I gave Boy an 8.1. I gave this an 8.2. I think
Boy is 7.1.
Yeah, I'm sorry, a 7.1. You're right. Yes. I think for me, what swayed it was that there are 3 or 4 songs here that are really good and would be really good songs on any album. The Wanderer, The First Time, definitely Stay. And like I said, I love Zooropa, track 1. And I think those songs are enough to carry the weaker songs on the album. So
yeah,
it's not an album I listen to a lot. Of course, we don't listen to albums like we used to, but I've got 2 or 3 of these on my phone, so
yeah, I'm not going to disagree or try to change your mind. That's super interesting because you typically rank lower than I do. You might have tied me up in overall average. We'll have to do that math.
Let me see. I would have to.
This is one of the bigger discrepancies. This is a full point higher than me.
Yeah.
The biggest discrepancy was I gave War a 9 and you gave it a 7.6. You little bitch.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where the other. We talked about this. The album where we were closest was Unforgettable Fire. I gave it a 9. You gave it an 8.9.
The last few have been very close. Unforgettable Fire, 9 and 8, and then Joshua Tree 9, 8, and 10. Rattle and Hum 8, 7, and 8, 5.
Yeah.
Octung 9, 8, and 10.
Although we kind of knew, I think we both kind of knew intuitively that we'd be really close on the last 3 albums.
Yeah.
Particularly Joshua Tree and Octung Baby.
I think it's more fun when they're different because I didn't know. I did not realize that you were going to rank this one higher, which is, and you were surprised that you were like, oh, you dinged it more than that. Yeah, because I'm not a super suck up fanboy, I mean, there are things I can be a little bit more, I gave October a 6.4 and I gave this a higher rank than October, which contains Gloria. Come on. I mean, even if the song Gloria was just repeated 10 times on the October album, nothing else on there, that's still worth a 6.4.
Yeah, maybe you put Stay on an album, that's worth 6.4 alone.
Gloria, dude, it's Latin.
Oh, well, yeah, you're right. 6.5. Yeah. So I think that if my calculations are correct, and they will have to be authenticated before our next podcast, but I believe that the aggregate here for me is 7.3. And for you, it is 7.6.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
What do you have me for Rattle and Hum? 8.5?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So you gained a little bit on me this time. Or you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. What's the goal? Is it what if we finished with the same score?
We'd
And-
have to get married.
We'd have to get there. We'd have to have a recount. All right, folks. Thanks for logging on and listening to our thoughts on one of the most influential bands of the modern era. Please be sure to follow us at Rock and Roll Doggies on Instagram and on Twitter at Roll Doggies for details about our next podcast, which will be about pop and other juicy tidbits as we take a chronological journey through the discography of U2. So until we connect again, good night, everybody.
No, it's a musical journey.